All right, everyone, welcome. It is so exciting to be here with you all today. My name is Sukjin Ong. I use she, her pronouns. I am accompanied by my dear colleague, Susie Morales, who you'll hear more from later. And welcome. If you're here, you're probably here for the Root Continuous Sabbatical Info Session. It's been such a long time coming for all of us who's been building this, streaming this, and we're so glad to see you here. Whether you're here for yourself or you're bringing back this information to your community members in your life, we're truly grateful for your interest. So, a couple of housekeeping before we jump into it. This particular hour will be split into half. So the first half will be us presenting to you the information on this sabbatical. Hopefully, you've already been on our website, so nothing is completely new. But if this is the first time you're taking this all in, hopefully that you'll take some time to revisit the website after this to get yourself familiarized with what this sabbatical opportunity is all about. The second half of this hour is questions. So we really encourage you to hold your questions until the end. The Q&A function is open. Feel free to drop it in there. But hopefully with the amount of information that we present to you that at some point they will be answered. But if not, please make sure that you ask that question because you're probably not the only one holding that. This presentation will be recorded and the webinar will be placed on our website. By joining this, you're giving us consent to record this presentation. Feel free to turn your videos off if you don't want that to be on. If you do not wish to be recorded, you can also hop off the call and access the recording later. So many ways to get the information that you need from us. You will be placed on mute for this particular presentation so that everyone gets a chance to ask their questions. If you need closed captioning, Zoom has that option turned on so you can hit on that as well. And definitely place those questions in the Q&A as I mentioned earlier. We will try to keep track of as many questions that we answer and to the best of our ability within this hour answer those questions. But say if we didn't get to something, please email us at our email rootsupport@nexuscp.org. That email will be showing up again later. And we have been responding to folks that way as well. So that's another great way to reach out to us later. Once again, our website and FAQ is really thorough. So that's another place that we really want to make sure that you spend time with after this. So yeah, familiarize yourself with those pages before you apply to the sabbatical program. So before I jump into some team introductions, this gorgeous, gorgeous artwork that you are laying your eyes on is the creation of Tori Hong. As you look through the image, we hope that you notice it evokes different kinds of rest that are present with people, land, elements of life, that we all get to interact with, because that's really key, right? Rest does not look one way. Rest will change and look different depending on who we are, our communities, what matters to us. To quote Tricia Hersey, which some of you might know as the Net Ministry, she said, rest in its simplest form becomes an act of resistance and a reclaiming of power because it asserts our most basic humanity. We are enough. The systems cannot have us. Rest is anything that allows you to connect your body with your mind. With that, I would love to introduce you the team. So I've spoken a lot. I'm actually going to pass it to Susie so you can hear a little bit more from her. Susie, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Susie, she, her pronouns. I am the program manager at Reclaiming Our Own Time, or ROOT. One thing I want to share with you all. We'll get into the details of the sabbatical. You get all that information, but I think one thing I want you all to get away from our time today is not only more information about this, but as well as I hope that this conversation, this time together inspires you to continue your rest practices, whether or not you receive the sabbatical. Um, it's something that rest is something that we need. It's something that keeps us alive. So I hope that, this continues. And I'll pass it back to you, Sukjin.
Thank you so much, Susie. So, as you heard from me earlier, I'm Sukjin, sheer pronouns. We have another co-director as well, Rosalva Hernandez, that's not on this call here today, but very much a key part of, all the dreaming, planning, scheming, all the beautiful things that we pull together. So, our hope for you really is that, whether it's through this sabbatical or other things that Root does, that you'll find ways to keep leaning into that rest that you truly deserve. So with that, before we get into the sabbatical, I'll talk a little bit about our work at Root. When we first came to this, we know that it's really important for us to reclaim our time instead of letting, all the systems around us to depict and tell us what to do. And one of the ways, many ways we could do that, right? And one of the ways that we are leaning in specifically in our work is that piece around rest. And so you'll see that the work of Root really centers around that. Even though today we are focused on the sabbatical, it's not the only thing that we do. So as part of our commitment to community, we create opportunities and events and resources to uncover, pause, and reflect on our own self to discover our rest practices. We have heard from community members how difficult it is to do that, especially when we have been told to grind and to hustle for our lives. And so what does it mean for us to pause and realize that, okay, there are ways in which that we can do that for us, right? And so as part of that unpacking, pausing, reflecting, there's the building up as well, right? How do we then make sure that these rest practices are truly ours? So if you have not been, subscribed to our care packages, really encourage you to do so, because that's where we announce things like our Reimagine Rest series, where community members come together to rest and to explore. That's how you hear about things like the sabbatical and other resources that when we collect them and curate them, we make sure that we share it back with community. So that's our work to connect community to these resources and opportunities. And then there's the other circle, so to speak, that is the responsibility to the ecosystem. Thankfully, we're not the only ones doing this work in this space. It's so amazing to see others who are offering healing, rest opportunities, sabbaticals, grants, like all these things as well. And so we are partnering up at the ecosystem level to make sure that this isn't just that one-off time that you'll see these things show up, but we try and make it more available. Maybe the timing or the way that our sabbaticals or our events don't quite jive with your life right now, and that's okay, because there's others as well that do something very similar, and hopefully something resonates with you, because we all deserve rest. So that's the large framework of why we do the work we do, and that we partner up with different folks like healers and other rest practitioners in doing this work. And you are here for the sabbatical. So we will get into the sabbatical piece of it. So this is the first that we're offering, the very first cohort. And the design of this has been very intentional with the support of our sabbatical design committee. We have spoken and interviewed community leaders and members from different walks of life to really unpack, like, okay, if we can offer a sabbatical opportunity, how can this be different enough from what's out there and also meet the needs of like all sorts, right? There's so many amazing people out there that need and deserve this. So if you have looked at our website, some of these details will look familiar. We are offering 10 persons and the opportunity to pursue a 3-month deep sabbatical, so that continuous sabbatical. And as part of this experience, there will be cohort sessions where these 10 persons will come together and really learn to unpack, talk about what it means for them to rest individually and communally. They will receive up to $30,000 to support their sabbatical plans. There will be connections made to coaches, healing practitioners, other guides to build and strengthen those rest practices that mean something to the 10 person. And then resources like journals, other things that will pull along the way that the cohort needs. And so towards the end, there will be a retreat for everyone to kind of reflect on how to keep this going. But the idea is that you're not practicing this alone. There'll be 10 of you all doing this. In terms of the commitment, so what are you signing up for? We require that the 10 persons who choose this will be able to take 3 continuous months off. And if this is the part where you pause and say, I just don't know if I could realistically, even if I have the time to arrange for it, hang tight. There's this other opportunity called the rhythmic sabbatical that we'll talk a little bit more later. But assuming that you're like, yep, if I got time to arrange for it, I can take 3 months off in my life right now, then this is for you. And that you also will commit to doing the work that's needed to take this, right? Because you have to arrange for it. You might need to unpack what rest looks like for you. This, it's not just that, one starts a sabbatical without thinking it through. So if you're committed to doing the work to do that, great. And then also to really commit to the intent of the sabbatical, as community organizers, as people who truly care about changing our communities. It's hard to say, oh, I'm gonna rest for me to recharge, right? Like you're always thinking about someone else. So what's the version of truly honoring that rest for yourself that you could do? We want you to be able to lean into that and not take additional obligations during this time so you could truly rest. So we have the dates available on the website. Don't worry about scrambling to copy this down. But we really encourage you to just save the date, so if you're selected, none of this, will take you by surprise. We'll have a bunch of sessions coming up this fall where the cohort members will come together. There are some virtual check-ins next year. And then on top of that, if you have like coaching sessions or healing sessions or financial advisor conversations that you're planning for, make sure that you keep to those commitments, because that's what gets you to that deep rest. All right. So one question that we have got, well, a bunch of questions that we have gotten a lot during this time is, but what will we experience? So we thought for this webinar, we'll add this information here. So if you were in the first one or you watched the video for the first one, this is additional content. So we have some of these deep topics that we'll be unpacking together in fall. So for the in-person cohort sessions in fall, we'll start with, really unpacking and exploring our own story on rest and how that connects with our communities and ourselves. The next session, we'll talk about the history behind movements to reclaim rest and our sense of self. And there's just some really great deep activism that has happened over time. I mean, we are building on the existing work of many ancestors and elders in this movement before us. And then session 3 is really that piece around what it means to truly reclaim our time for rest, because we can't do this alone. We're all interconnected. So what does that mean when we're thinking about support systems, when we're thinking about each other, and we're thinking about, the longevity of our practice beyond this one moment in time, right? And then the fourth session, we'll be talking about resistance, right? Whether that is unpacking all the internal isms that we have been taught about whether we deserve to rest or when we can rest, to prove ourselves around that. It's like, how do we unpack those kind of resistance within us, but also externally, right? When we get those pushbacks externally, what does that mean? So those are the key themes that will anchor our sessions around. And then throughout this time, we will also individually, you'll be building your sabbatical plan. So when you say take 3 months off, when will that happen? What will that look like? What kind of arrangements you need to do so you feel good? What do people need to know? Things like that. The other piece that's also really key is financial and tax implications of receiving this grant. I know it sounds very like, oh my God, money. But that's real and it'll differ depending on your circumstances. We are in no ways financial advisors. But we have people that if you don't have one, we can help you connect with folks who understand what that means in the grand scheme of things. So you feel good stepping into this opportunity. Then of course, talking to your employer or volunteer organization, or if you run your own business, what does that mean? People you organize with, family, right? Like, what does taking this time off mean, right? This will vary from people to people. And that's where, we want you to take the time to like really flesh that out. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you have resources like healers, coaches, maybe you're, looking to connect with a therapist, whatever it is, like this group of rest practitioners that will help you lean into that sense of restfulness, really building up what that looks like for you too. So that's what the fall experience would look like. And then hopefully that leads you into a 2025 that allows you to truly do that, right? Like very likely you'll be taking your 3 month sabbatical sometime during 2025. But of course, if you're like super ready, you got all your things, like pulled together, you may even start sooner in the end of 2024 as well. Like there's no set period of 3 months that you have to take as long as it happens before September 2025, which is the end of this grant. And then there's those 3 check-ins that I mentioned earlier virtually, so people stay in community with each other. Of course, continue to engage in whatever forms of restfulness that looks like for you. And then we'll have a closing retreat at the very end. So that's the experience that folks will have as they go through this sabbatical. We make sure that it is structured enough so you feel supported, but spacious enough so that you truly rest. I mean, you won't feel restful if you're just doing more things, right? So how do we make sure that we have you supported and get that restfulness that you deserve? So with that, that's the experience of it. I'm going to pass it to Susie to talk more about the who.
Yes, thank you, Sujin. So yeah, who are we looking for? We, like this slide says, we want to break the typical confines of who gets access to sabbaticals. Usually it's only in higher education or academic spaces where sabbaticals are available, or only available to people in leadership roles like CEOs and VPs and all of them. So that doesn't allow for people who are doing other types of work to also get access to a sabbatical. What we are telling people is if you think that you are a change maker, someone who has dedicated time, labor, energy to better our community, our world, this is for you. You don't have to have X years of experience to participate in this or to apply. And that was done intentionally on our part because someone who is 60 years old may have 20 plus years under their belts doing change making work. Versus an 18-year-old who might have just started and is only a year in or 2 years in. So as long as you feel like you have dedicated time to making the people that you love, communities, make a better world for all of us, then this is for you. What that looks like, the work can look very differently. It can be someone who is an elder and has hosted conversations at their dinner table. It could be a young queer activist who works for gender neutral bathrooms in their school or maybe community center or in whatever space that they're engaged in. It could be an auntie who cooks delicious meals and provides fresh produce for unhoused neighbors, or a social worker who shows up for conversations, unscheduled conversations, um, organized by them and students in a school, for example. So it can look, you can be doing a bunch of different type of work. You don't necessarily have to be tied down to an institution to apply, or have worked within an institution. This is really open for those who have made impact in people's lives and in community. And if you are unsure if you should apply, just apply, do it. And if you're selected and we need to have that conversation, we will, but just encourage yourself to apply, encourage others to apply. Conversations can happen down the line, but I don't want you to feel like I shouldn't apply because I don't have enough experience or I haven't done this amazing thing that my neighbor has done or my friend has done. Apply, 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 and then we'll go from there. Next slide, please. So the eligibility, this is, like I mentioned, for people who have been doing community change work for some part of their lives. You have to be at least 18 years old by August 26th to apply. You should identify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color. You must reside in Minnesota or any of the Native nations whose territories are occupied by Minnesota. You should be able to receive funds in your name electronically to a financial banking institution or to cash a check in your name. Unfortunately, we cannot give you cash or cash a check to, let's say, your partner's name or a family member's name for them to then withdraw and give to you. We do need to send the money to an account that matches your name. And then you do need to have a valid mailing address. You are not eligible if you are applying on behalf of an organization, for example, a nonprofit or grassroots organization or business, collective. All applicants must be for the individual. We also aren't taking group applications. So if you and friends want to apply, then you all should apply individually and not as a group. If you are not able to commit to taking 3 months off of work or commitments that you may have, we have another option for you that I'll talk a little bit more about. But for this cohort, we really are asking for people to take those 3 months off. And then current staff, board members of Nexus Community Partners, and our immediate families are not allowed to apply either. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, if you are selected, we will hit you up, give you the news. We will have to go through a verification process just to make sure you're a real person and not a robot who's applied or a scammer. We tried to make the application as safe as possible and secure as possible, but we're living in a world where technology is always changing. So we do have to take some steps. And some of those include you need to submit a W-9 and a form of ID. And on our website, there is a list. If you go to the FAQ page, there is a list of IDs that we accept. We will be asking you to submit one supporting letter from a BIPOC community member who can just confirm of the impact of your work. it's someone who, it could be someone you volunteered with or someone you organized an event with, anyone who can witness and testify like, yep, this person has done some awesome things and they're real, they're a real person. And we're asking that that person also identify as BIPOC. We will have you sign a commitment letter agreeing that you'll attend to all the fellowship dates that Sukjin had mentioned earlier. Um, we know that things in life happen and you can't predict those things, but we are asking folks to really commit to our time together as a cohort so that we can grow and learn from one another. And then if you, again, are selected, then we will ask you to talk to your financial institution, give them a call, let them know that you received this funding or that you expect to receive the money soon. This is just so that they are aware, and once the $30,000 hits your bank account, they don't flag it as suspicious activity. We don't want to, run into complications. So we're hoping that this, by you giving them a call, we can prevent some of those things. We will offer all those who got selected an official letter for you to share with your bank as well as your employer. Yeah, next slide. Okay, great. So now we're here at the Rhythmic Sabbatical. If you're one of those people, or maybe you know others who say 3 months, I can't just take that time off of work. Like it's too much. I can't, not possible for me. No worries. We have this other opportunity that will open up in the spring of 2025, which we're calling the Rhythmic Sabbatical. This is really for those who, again, can't take the full 3 months off, but still want and are deserving of rest. So this cohort and sabbatical experience will be a little bit different. Rather than asking you to take 3 continuous months off, you get to decide when and how you take that time off. Maybe it's every weekend, or maybe one weekend a month, or a few days of the week where you are going to dedicate time for your rest and your rest journey. Yes, what will be provided for this will be a stipend, monthly rest deep dives for 6 months. And then you will also have access to the same resources that the first cohort has, including any healers that connect with the group who want to provide services. This can be financial healer or financial, we're calling them dreamers, who can help you figure out your finances a little bit. People, life coaches, for example, or somatic healers, and then journals and very similar materials that we share with the first cohort, you will also receive in this. Next slide. Yay, let's get to the application process. Yeah, thank you, Sukjin. If you haven't already seen the application, it is live, it is open. So if you visit our website, you should be able to access it now. Along with some basic information like your contact information, and some demographic questions that will help us with part of our evaluation of this application process is what I mean. There are also some narrative responses, which you can see on the screen. These responses, you can decide how much you want to share with us, what you want to share with us. Our process is a random selection process, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, which means that you don't have to feel like we will be judging your application against another person's. So when you fill out the application and you reflect on the questions and write it out, this is time for you to think about what rest means to you. And we hope that these questions allow you to start dreaming a bit about what is the rest that you want? What is it that you are dreaming about and want to live into? We will read through these, but we're not, again, we're mainly just looking to make sure that you're not applying as a nonprofit or organization, or we're just looking for the red flags in case you are a robot. But again, it will be random selection. So what you share with us will not, we will not be judging against other applications. Sukjin, will you go to the next slide? Thank you. So random selection and our selection process. We recognize that deep rest is needed in our communities, and we too recognize that application processes can pit community members against each other and enforce who is seen as worthy. We decided to go with a random selection process to kind of prevent some of this. It is by no means a perfect process. If there were an fully equitable process, I don't think we would even be needing to have an application process for something like this. In a radical, beautiful world, everyone would receive funds to rest. Unfortunately, we're not there quite yet. So how the selection process will run is, once you submit your application, we receive it. We'll be reviewing them as they come in just to be sure that, again, you're real, that you're eligible, that the application is complete, and there were no issues, maybe like blank responses or anything like that. All those who are eligible will then be moved into a pool for random selection. We will run this random selection tool and choose 10 people. Once those 10 people are selected, we will follow up with them and say, hey, like, awesome, you were selected. We just need to do one other step, which is the verification process. And again, just reassuring that this person is real and that we're not calling a scammer or anyone like that. This is also the phase where you will submit your letter of support and your IDs. So if you want to get all of that ready beforehand, feel free. That'll save us a little bit of time. But then once we can verify that you're a real person and everything looks good, then we will give you the official letter and you're part of the cohort. So hopefully it's not too much of a stressful process. We did try to make this as easy and smooth as possible. We know things will always pop up, so we're trying to prepare for them, but hopefully on your end it feels easy. In the case that you were selected and then can no longer participate in this, no worries, you can still apply to the rhythmic sabbatical. And if that's the case, then we will choose another person at random to take your spot. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say here. Sikchin, will we move to the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, so again, applications are open. They opened August 5th and they will close August 26th at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Please put that in your calendar. Make sure you don't miss the deadline. Once that application closes, it's closed. So make sure you remind yourself to apply. And I think we can go into the Q&A now. Sukjin, before we jump into questions, is there anything that I might have missed that you want to share or re-emphasize?
Yeah, I think this hopefully has given you all sometimes like I think hearing the information helps, even though you can read a lot of this on our website. Hopefully it gives you all some ahas and light bulb moments right now. And we also want to emphasize that our support email is available to you. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't think of a question right now. Like, what if I have questions later? It's okay. Like, always reach out to us or on the side of getting your questions answered. Yeah, and don't feel pressured into getting it answered right now. So with that, I think we can open up Q&A. If you want to pull up the Q&A functionality on your Zoom, that's where you could drop your questions in. And Susie, do you think I should just stop screen sharing or just leave it up?
I think, yeah, why don't you stop screen
Screen share.
sharing? That way we can see each other's faces.
I
Thank
like
you.
that. Yeah. I'll let you all type your questions and take the first question that has popped up with this definition of BIPOC or BIPOC. It broadly stands for Black, Indigenous, and Persons of Color. Is a very broad term. It is not unproblematic in itself, right? I think a lot of us talk about, how we have been put into boxes and defined in ways that, we don't always consent to ourselves. So with that full recognition, that's the term that we are using right now to describe the kind of folks that we want to see apply for this, because we know broadly that all the racist patriarchal systems that we're subjected to really makes it hard for us who have identities that are broadly clustered under this to get the rest that we deserve. So of course, if we have better terms in the future, we are definitely looking to updating the language that we have. And this goes with other portions of our work as well. We are by no means stuck in this way of doing, and we would always look forward to updating things as we go. So hopefully that you see yourselves that you see yourselves in this, even though the language may not be perfect as is right now.
Mhm.
Susie, anything you might want to add, or do we want to take another
Um,
question?
no, I think you hit it. Thank you.
Mm.
We can go to the next question. Let me pull up the Q&A. Okay, so this question, what taxes would we be required to pay for the sabbatical? We can't tell you how much you might have to pay. We would advise you to talk to a financial advisor who can tell you a little bit more specific, just because everyone's situation is different. Um, yeah, I don't, Sukjin, anything else?
Yeah, that definitely counts. If it helps and you want to start some of those questions right now with your financial people, this form of support is considered a gift or a grant. That's the language that folks use. And we do have the flexibility on our end to kind of cut the check in ways that makes most sense for you. So if you're like, hey, I need this to come in 2025, don't give me a single cent in 2024, like, we could arrange that with you. But how we do that will really be something that you'll want to talk with the folks that you're working with. And this also applies for folks who are receiving some form of public assistance. Things like this will definitely impact what that looks like. So we really advise folks to have those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This question, what does rest mean to y'all? What are you hoping for individuals selected for the cohort to learn, gain from this experience? Great question. Yeah, I think to me at this moment in my life, rest means it means this. And it means joy to me. Whenever I feel joyful or doing something that brings me joy, that's when I feel the most restful. What I hope people can take out of this experience is um, I hope that you get a time to really think about and practice whatever that restful thing is for you. Um, this is 3 months, but I really hope that folks from this experience can take this as not just a one-time thing, but life transformative. Like I'm going to change some things, the things that I have power over to really embed rest in my everyday life. Um, I don't want folks to feel like this is the only time I get to rest. No, we hope that the conversations and time we have together really encourages you and inspires you to continue resting beyond the 3 months together.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I definitely echo that as well. And we're hoping that some of these lessons too that we get to learn together and share back with others. Hopefully this is not the first and only time, well, besides the rhythmic sabbatical, that we'll see opportunities like this. And I think we need to own and tell these stories of how pivotal it is that we rest and reclaim our time. So hopefully by experiencing this, that the stories helps us, keep the resourcing of work like this up for other people as well.
Mhm.
I'll pick up the next question on wanting to rest but can't because you have debt to pay off. Could you use part of it to pay it off so you can finally rest? That is such an important question. And thank you for asking that. I think this is where we want you to be able to plan for what those dollars mean. We can definitely check on the specifics of whether part of it could be used for, say, debt relief or not, right? Because I know like our colleagues at the Open Road Fund, some people use that as part of building wealth, for example, and that's restful as well, right? It's important to recognize. We also have designed this sabbatical so that you can take those 3 months off to deeply rest. So some of it will have to go to resourcing that as well. But what's that ratio, how that looks like? That's that individual planning piece that will work with the selected participants. So that will be part of that conversation. Let's see.
The next one, my employer provides my insurance and I actually manage it as part of my role. I'm curious how participants might navigate the loss of employer insurance, and have you had experience navigating this?
Yeah, so this is our first cohort. So we will be navigating it with you. And we recognize that different employers have different stances on what it means to take a sabbatical. As part of calculating the 30,000, we did factor in like what might a person need to support a family of four with maybe kiddos, and if you have to pay for insurance and some childcare out of pocket, so we factored that in the math of it. But once again, right, it not it might not be what is the accurate financial situation for everyone that's selected. So we're hoping that, that's part of that figuring out that we will do together when you receive it. And then we'll see, what your employers may or may not do and how we can help navigate some of that together.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next question, thanks for the overview, and I apologize if I missed this. What if you are near ready in your planning and you may need to miss one of the in-person sessions for it? Yeah, we do hope that you can attend all the sessions. That is something we are asking people to make time for. So if you need to start having conversations with people in your life or your workplace to start or to make sure you can attend, please do so. Sukjin, I'm gonna let you take this one. What happens if you miss one of the in-person sessions?
Yeah, so we'll figure out ways to get the person caught up. I mean, hopefully, like at this point, you're not like, oh, I have to miss 3 out of 4. That, maybe this is not the time for you to do that. But we want to make sure too that, say, if you're like, hey, I I just am out of town during this time because I don't know, visiting ancestral homelands. We'll figure something out. Yeah. But to the best of your ability, like hold those dates.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This next one, yes, global majority. That's a great term. We did discuss about maybe using that, but we currently err on the side of a term that we think is more known, hence BIPOC. Once again, it's not perfect. I mean, yeah, that's not the term that I think, we'll end up using forever and ever. But yes, global majority is a great way of thinking about ourselves. Following. Yes. So to the question around using it for down payments and travels and all that. Yeah, so that really is where that individual planning comes in. We want to make sure that you're able to use these funds to really help support that 3 months off. Because I mean, we're talking about 3 months unplugging, right? And if part of that is like, hey, I know that I want to do this like trip to this place because it's gonna really help me reconnect with myself differently. Great, so let's make sure that in your financial planning that we factor from that. If part of it is relieving some of these pressures from paying for debt or whatnot. It's like let's factor that in. But like, what does it take for you to unplug for 3 months is really the core of that resourcing that we're talking about here. So
Mhm. Um, I'm gonna see. Rather, it's challenging for me to take extended periods off to rest. If that's true for you, if you know that you can't take the 3 months off, apply to the or to the rhythmic sabbatical.
mhm,
Uh, Applications haven't opened yet. That will open in the spring. If you haven't signed up to our newsletter, the best way to hear first about it would be through our newsletter. So I do encourage you to sign up. We'll post on socials and everything, but it's probably the fastest way you'll hear. So don't worry. So the rhythmic will be there the spring. You can also apply to that.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Great question on whether the awardees will be publicized. We will check back in on that because I don't think we are, but we just want to make sure we're not missing the
Mhm.
mark
Yeah.
on anything that's required. So TBD.
If I know for sure, I think we can say, like, if you are someone who is awarded the funds and absolutely you're like, I don't want to be publicized, we will honor that and respect that and won't share your information.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
If we
Um,
if we know we don't qualify for the root, but the rhythmic sabbatical is more fitting, should we still apply, or are they separate applications? They are separate applications. So if you know that the continuous sabbatical isn't for you, um, it's okay, cool. Keep an eye out for the spring when we open up applications for the rhythmic one.
yes.
Mhm.
I'm mindful we're at 12:53. We have a few more slides after this, so let me take a few quick ones.
Okay.
Does the money come all at once or monthly? Okay, that is something that we can work with you on figuring out how do we parse it out and the schedule of payments, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, so to the question on like what happens if you can't come back to the job, should I use the time to look for a new job? I think that is something that we'll have to work with you to figure out what makes sense. Because the last thing we want is, you take this time that's supposed to be restful, but then you're stressing, right? Because that's real too. But maybe there's a way that we could figure out how to manage that so that you could still have that deep rest but not also like completely get caught off guard after. So that's something that we'll work with you on. The other thing too is that if you need the rest but you're like, you know what, I just can't not have a job, there's the rhythmic sabbatical. So please make sure that if you for some reason decide that you don't want to apply for this, like please don't forget the rhythmic sabbatical as an option. Yes, this question on what do we do with the information if the selection is random, great question. We are using that to get a sense of like who are the people who are really seeing themselves as like rest is so crucial right now. I mean, like I think we all know deep down in our gut and in our bones, and there is a component of telling this story that says like, hey, this is why this matters. So we are hoping to like pull out insights, general themes on what people are saying, to share back. So you get to hear from, your fellow applicants. It's like, why does this matter now to all of us? I mean, I think we all know deep down, but to have something tangible to say, this is it, it is something that we would love to share back as part of this process. We have tried our best to make this application light enough so that it's not burdensome or too burdensome in terms of what you're asked. And hopefully it becomes more of that reflective process of like, wow, I've done all these amazing things and this is how I could dream about my rest. We're really hoping that, that feels like that for you all. Uh, uh, okay, so I'm going to answer a few that are relevant before we turn to our last few slides. No, the grant could be paid out earlier or later, depending on how we schedule that with you. But that's part of that conversation because you will want to be able to feel supported for your 3 month sabbatical. And you will find out when you're selected in early September. It is great question on the selection. It is random. What you wrote is what you'll write in on the answers has no bearings on what whether you'll be selected or not. I mean, we hope that you truly say something because we want to hear from you. So don't just like leave it blank or write test. That's we might think you're a bot. So give it your honest story and answer. But don't worry about like, oh, I have to craft the perfect way of talking about my work in order to be selected. Yeah. Scroll back. Thank you for answering those questions, Susie. And as for that question around like side business or side things that you want to grow, that's part of the planning. It's like if that is something that you could do without it being disruptive or takes away from your rest, or whatever that is, right? Like if you're like, hey, there's this other thing that really fills my cup that I'm volunteering for, like great. But if it takes away from that restfulness, then let's talk about what truly resting in that 3 months looks like for you. Okay, I think we generally got to most questions. If you have other questions, please email us and I'll flash the details shortly. So I will put it up right
Yes,
now.
thank you.
Okay, let me know if you're seeing the screen share again, Susie.
Yes, I am.
All right, awesome.
Great. Yeah. So like Jen said, if you do have any more questions, feel free to check out our FAQ page. It's likely that our question or your question might be answered there already. And if not, then please email us and we will get to you as soon as we can. Next slide, Jen. Some offerings, we will have someone at Macalester College, DeWitt Wallace Library on these 2 dates, Wednesday, August 14th and Thursday, August 22nd. For anyone who might not have access to computers or maybe typing or writing is not your skill and you like to share your story orally, then there's someone there who will listen and is willing to type up your story for you. Or if you're just in general are not able to type, then go to McAllister. Check out these sessions to help you apply. I think that's it for this, right? Yes, thank you. And if you are someone who is a somatic body worker, or maybe you know people who do these things, somatic body worker, a financial dreamer, someone who can help someone plan out their finances and kind of get into the details of what this money could do for you and your taxes. Life coaches or other guides and healers, we're looking for people to help support the sabbatical cohort. If this is you or someone you know, please, and you want to support, please fill out our form. I don't know if we wonder section, if you have access to it, could you throw it in the chat? If not, I can also look for it. I will say if you decide to apply to the sabbatical program, the fellowship, and also fill out this form, if you are selected, we are not going to ask you to also support the cohort. Um, but that doesn't mean that we cannot still work together. I don't know if you're able to, in this moment, Sikjen, to change the slide. I know you're doing multiple things at once, so if not, okay, thank you. There are more opportunities to work together and just spend space and time together. Sukjin had mentioned at the beginning, we do offer other types of work, or we do other things besides just the sabbatical. One of them is the Reimagined Rest series, which are events that happen throughout the year focused on rest. And the next one that will come up is in October. The theme is What Can Nature Teach Us About Rest? Again, if you're not already signed up to our newsletter, please do, because that's where you'll find out information about this event along with our website once we publish it on there. But that newsletter is the best way to get the information quickly. We will also be having a Heal the Healers convening, which is for anyone who is a healer, does healing work, who also wants to be around other healers and talk about rest. I believe, yep, the October and December dates will be virtual. We haven't publicized anything of this yet, so once we have finalized more information, we'll share it out. But we'll have some virtual events, and then in February, we will have in-person gatherings for 50 people. This will be a time for you to embody and explore rest practices. If you are someone who wants to help sponsor this idea, please connect with us. We would love some support. But again, this convening is really just for folks who identify as healers, do healing work, who also want to rest. And then I've already talked a ton about it, our newsletter, sign up for it, please. And then if you want us to host versions of our events with your work or cohort, please connect with us. We are always wanting to learn about what people are doing and seeing how we can collaborate and partner together. So reach out to us. If you have questions about any of this on this slide or about the sabbatical, please email us. We will connect. And I think that's all I have for now. Thank you all. I know I'm 3 minutes over, so I appreciate you taking those 3 minutes to spend with us. Yeah, that's all we got.
Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to reading your applications. And as always, please email us if you have anything that comes up later. Don't write yourself out. You all have done really great work for our communities, and we want to keep you all happy and healthy. So that's why we do this work. So take care, everyone.